All right, so today I had the idea. I was driving home from work and I thought, what makes this channel resonate with so many people? As I slowly reach 1 million views on a channel with 4,000 subscribers, I really wanted to know what GPT thought. So I asked it a simple question. Why is the MillennialSteam channel so popular? The MillennialSteam channel has garnered popularity due to its candid, audio-only monologues that delve into the personal experience and societal observations of its creator. The channel resonates with viewers by offering an unfiltered glimpse into the challenges faced by many in today's world. These on the side over here are the sources that it used to come up with this. As a tiny channel, I never expected to be a voice, like a real voice out there in the world. And when I asked it to generate a video based on my channel, the title came back with "Congratulations, you've been promoted to nothing," which is what I would be, what I would call, and what I am is that's my job. You keep being promoted and promoted more and more tasks without any increase in pay. So, with that said, let's get into our quick monologue. You know what a modern promotion really is? It's a slightly fancier way of being broke. Like, congratulations, you've unlocked new responsibility, new stress, and new expectations for the same paycheck that barely covered your old life. They don't promote you to reward you, they promote you to trap you right where you are. But now you feel too guilty to leave. I don't feel too guilty to leave. I can't find a better job. It's simple enough. I mean, everyone that has worked with me in the past few years has one thing in common. They get to the job, realize that this is a dead end. Their career is not going to take off by working there. So I would say that the fastest someone started looking for another job was my original senior manager, who started taking interview calls in front of me within 10 days of starting to work there. After 6 months of him not being able to find a better job, he started getting more agitated because he didn't want to work there anymore. He developed a terrible drinking problem, or I what I'm going to say about the drinking problem was that everyone that works in technology has a drinking problem or a substance problem. It's part of the industry. Autism and substances go with technology like peanut butter and jelly. You're rarely going to find someone that works in this field that's normal. In fact, I would say that on the spectrum, IT or technology people fall on the lower functioning aspect of it. That's why they're good at their job. If they were functional human beings, like all human beings, they'd probably work in accounting, marketing, or HR. But technology people are low functioning, both socially and in every conceivable way that involves working with other human beings. And it's not by accident. All right, let's get into our first point. Promotions are no longer about growth, they're about control. Companies don't promote you to reward you, they promote you to bind you emotionally, mentally, financially. The raise is a microscopic, but the workload triples. Why? Because now they know you'll stay longer hoping for another fake opportunity. The new title isn't freedom, it's a leash. And that's exactly what everyone that I've worked with over the past few years have understood. There's fake opportunity here. They may promise to help you out with your career, but the reality is it's just a cage and they need to know how long they can keep you in it. Because the amount of control that they have over your life, because remember, your financial lifeline comes through your job. It's like being inside of the corporation connected to your mother, your financial mother. And as long as you keep the connection going, you're going to stay alive. But the second that they chop you off, they cut the umbilical cord, and you have to go out there and find another job, It's going to be difficult, painful, I would almost say. I was walking through Walmart this afternoon after work, and it's the store that a couple miles from the one that I worked at after college. And you're walking through that place and you look at the employees. Some look like they're still in high school. The guy that I saw over by the potato salad looked like he had to be in his 60s. And he had that look on his face like MillennialSteam. I don't want to be here. I should have retired a century ago. And there's just nothing behind the eyes, just his box cutter opening another box like he'd done it a million times. And you know what? That's how I got when I started working there. I remember having students from the university, particularly one, her name was Barbara. I would say that she was a semi attractive, slightly overweight girl, beautiful. And she just befriended me in the store just because she saw that I was a really intelligent person, or let me scrape that, a person who was trapped with an education inside of retail. And she took pity on me. Every time she came into the store, she came to look for me to see how I was doing. One of the most difficult things was to see her go back to Nebraska, where she was from, after she finished going to school. And I never heard from her again. But I had many women approach me inside of the grocery store and just like kind of be taken aback by this old guy with the same look on his face as this old man that I'm describing, opening the potato salad boxes and putting things on the shelf. Not like a human being anymore, but a shell of a human being. Talking point number two. A new title doesn't pay rent. It just looks good on their LinkedIn. Most promotions today are designed to look good for management, not you. They'll brag about employee growth while you're over here doing three people's jobs for the price of a value meal. Ain't that the truth? The raise doesn't even cover inflation, but congratulations, your email signature is 6 words long. Longer? Haven't even gotten that. For my job, they combined two completely separate jobs, slapped them into one job, and told me, you're now responsible for all of this for this tiny little paycheck. And today, while I was talking to the senior manager, who again is no longer, was demoted from being my boss, he told me, it's like, when I was working at one of the sites, they asked me to drive 6 hours to another office location with no extra pay and start setting up that office. And that was on a Friday afternoon. I'd never heard this story and I've worked with him for years. But today he felt like he needed to vent about how bad he's doing in his job. And it's not bad because he's not doing the job. They hired the cheapest possible person they could into this position and then overloaded him with responsibility, and he's just reacting to it. Today, he just kind of started breaking down of how bad the company has treated him over the last 13 years. He isn't even the highest paid worker within our group. He has the highest responsibility, but he is not the highest paid person in the group. One of my other coworkers that I see occasionally, he's the highest paid person within the group. And he has a fraction of the responsibility. In fact, today I sent him a Slack message and I said, hey, get off your hands, there's work to do. And he just wrote me back, ha ha ha, in the chat. And I'm like, dude, you do so little work some days that I was making fun of the fact that I told him that I could see him through his computer just sitting there scratching himself, which again he found hilarious because you wouldn't believe how many people, when you work in tech, ask you if your boss can see you over the webcam. And believe me, they can. So if you ever think you're just going to slap around the governor while you're at work, think twice about it, people. But I took this just to one higher level. And I told him, he asked this specific question, can you see me through the webcam? And I said, no, I don't see you through the webcam. I can see you through the USB port on the front of your computer. You just laugh because you can tell a regular end user this because some people are so paranoid. I mean, we all know these people that take the black sticky tape, even though there's a shutter on the top of your laptop, and they will put the black sticky tape over it. I've actually had to go up to people and be like, see, you don't need to put the tape there. You can just slide this thing over, but they insist that the man is watching them in their boxers because he has nothing else to do other than wait until they do something controversial so that way you can get canned. And I can only imagine. I mean, I heard stories about people who were at home working remote and they were getting it on with Susie Rottencrotch, and someone saw that. Or even worse, someone was sitting at home and decided, you know what, it's time to relax on the clock. So they're sitting there with the doobie, and your boss, just casually decides that he's going to check in on his remote workers, and there you are, smoking the biggest blunt you've ever you've ever seen in your life. It's like the size of a small bat. And the worst part is sometimes these people, they have kids in the background, like they're because kids were also sent home during the pandemic to work remotely, and you're like, oh my gosh, my downstairs neighbor is like that. She's got like, I don't know how many kids down there, a lot of them, and they're often, I can hear them playing outside of the apartment. Lately they've been keeping them in, but I can hear them playing down there, and I mean the smell of Mary Jane, oh, morning, noon, and night. You're like, are those kids? Because when I was supposed to be going to high school, I spent like the first year when I was supposed to be going to high school because my mom made certain that she signed me up for it, but I never went a single day. Like occasionally, I would go to the campus just because she would drop me off there, and then I just walk home or walk over to this guy's house that I knew that lived in abandoned apartments. And his family was like that. He'd walk in, and his mom would be sitting there on the couch and eyes all red, just puffing away, and you're just like, so this is what it's like to live in an abandoned apartment complex, huh? Somehow they managed to jimmy rig electricity to get it going, but it was missing a wall. You could walk right into this place off the street, and they were just sitting there. He had a bedroom on the second floor. It was like they just moved into a bombed out building. But anyhow, I digress. Let's get back to our final talking point here. Corporate culture trains you to be grateful for scraps. They want you to treat survival like success. $1.50 more an hour? That's supposed to change your life? Being grateful for modern promotions is like thanking your kidnappers for giving you a bigger cage. Promotions today are less rewards and more pacifier. I'll tell you what, anyone that I work with would love to see $1.50 raise. I remember it was my first year of working at this evil corp, and they gave financial bonuses based on merit, right? I got 30 cents that day after busting my hump for a year doing a job that was way out of my league, way, way beyond. In fact, I was telling Gen Z about this the other day. It's like they took someone with with a background in technology that could do this, and then they just decided to start stacking it like a cake, one job after another, after another, after another, until they loaded up this job with like five jobs, and then they offered you a 30-cent increase. I blew up at the senior manager at that time. That was my first year. I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Even McDonald's workers get dollar raises. And he just looked at me like, if you don't like it, leave. And since then, I've watched 3,000 people leave. Because what? There's no career, there's no training, there are no real promotions, and there are no raises. Why people stay? I would say it's just out of fear. Because when you have jobs that are this crappy, people are afraid of losing them. Even the senior manager today told me, it's like, you know what? They don't appreciate me here. They treat me like garbage. And and he said this, I've been here 13 years and I'm not the highest paid employee. I've been here, he's been there the longest of anyone. He's probably been there probably triple the amount of time that our lowest person that's been there has been there when it comes to senior staff, not the entry level Gen Zs that we seem to hire every single year to every months to a year. I would say that's how often the Gen Zs will leave because the the writing's on the wall. If they offer you enough money to pay your rent but nothing else, and you don't want to get a second or third job, well, you're not going to make it unless you move back home. In fact, that was a conversation I had last week that the rent isn't going to go down just because you don't have money. I would say that it's almost cynical in a sense because every year your landlord wants to raise your rent when you live in an apartment. And yet every year you're making less and less money. Your buying power is going down significantly. Like the buying power I had when I originally started was about 25% higher because my rents nearly tripled since I got hired at Evil Corp. And so I'm making the exact same money, but my bring home now that my rent has tripled has been significantly cut. Walk into any grocery store, what, 5 years on now from when the bug hit us? And I mean, you can see if you're making the same paycheck that you were making 3 or 4 years ago, you're not making it. You're absolutely not making it. And for some reason, I had a video that was recommended to me this afternoon about people who wanted to show that this is not accidental. It's intentional. Corporations know what it costs to be alive. I say this all the time, but most of us, we can't afford to work anymore. When rent's going to blow away, what, 20,000, $24,000 of your money every single year? And that's the equivalent of probably half the average paycheck. Like, if you're making $40,000 right now, I don't know how you're still alive. Honestly, sometimes I wonder. It's like, what's keeping the pros alive between the cost of food and housing? There's nothing left other than doing DoorDash, selling your various liquids, trying to grow more kidneys so you can sell them. I mean, if they're not as terrible as mine are. But how are people making it out there? I mean, are you guys living like some of the people you walk around the apartment complex and there's like 20 people living in a one bedroom apartment? Like, how are people getting by out there? Like, I was just talking to someone yesterday and she's like, I have to live with 5 people in a 3 bedroom house and they have bunk beds. And this isn't a very young person. She's 25 years old and she lives like this. I have other friends who live in shacks, other people who've had, and this is the staggering part. After I got out of university, every one of my classmates' plans after getting their shiny liberal arts degrees was hell no. I am not going to work a whole month just to pay rent and then have nothing else left. So their plan was immediately move back in with their parents if their parents would take them. I've only heard one person in years tell me that they tried to move back home and her mom said no because they've had a new baby and they need that room for the baby. So she's got to figure it out. And that's a phrase I hate because if you work right now, you've heard the phrase, you better figure it out. Because there isn't a whole lot of training at Evil Corp. Either you figure it out or they're going to find someone else that will be able to do it for even less money than what you want. In fact, that's another conversation I had. It's like someone was telling me that they were trying to negotiate their wage with a potential new employer. And I'm like, what is this, the 1980s? Don't try negotiating your wage when you're in the wage cage. It doesn't work that way. At least not anymore.